On Friday morning we carefully lifted our dog, a 15-year-old collie cross called Cabbage, onto the back seat of our car and drove off to the vet. We knew that this time it was unlikely that she would be returning home with us. Although she was a bit blind and very deaf, until recently Cabbage had been a cheerful dog, even after an ordeal last November when she and 5 other pets were stolen along with the dog walker's van and later released on a suburban street. But at the beginning of the year she caught a gastroenteritis bug, which seems to be affecting many dogs. She went off her food, needed carrying up and down stairs, and her back legs kept giving way when she tried to stand. Worst of all, she seemed miserable, finding no joy in life anymore. After a conversation with an extremely sympathetic vet, we decided it was time to let her go. We stroked her as she quietly slipped away. We are, of course, devastated. Cabbage was such a sweet-natured animal and had been part of our family ever since we picked her up from the Dogs Trust Rescue Home in 2007. I find myself taken aback by the extent of my grief. I did not grow up with dogs. There was no room for pets in the one-bedroom flat that was my childhood home, and my mother wasn't keen. So I was somewhat sceptical when my wife suggested we got one, partly as a way of teaching our younger child some responsibility. It quickly became clear that it was she who really wanted a dog, and for Cabbage, Diane was always the pack leader in our house, someone whose study she guarded fiercely. But I rapidly made an important discovery. An energetic pet that needed 3 walks a day was good for my health. Fighting the middle-aged flab, I took to running a 3-mile circuit around the park with the dog, stopping to haul her off football pitches where she was determined to prove she could be a star striker. Without Cabbage, I doubt I would have run 5 half marathons, having trained with her along the Grand Union Canal towpath. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2019, and as we both got older and more decrepit, the running slowed to a gentle walk. But regular as clockwork, before 7 each morning, we'd set off for a 40-minute amble around the park. When the first pandemic lockdown arrived and 1 outing a day was all we were allowed, I decided to document the walk with a daily photo on Instagram and Twitter. Having a reason to get up and out each morning was good for my mental health, and dozens of people told me that seeing the daily photo raised their spirits too. One British journalist based in Hong Kong told me he looked out for the photo each day as a reminder of home. On Saturday morning I woke up and realised there was no dog to walk, but I set out anyway for the park, where Cabbage would stand and wait somewhat impatiently for me to snap the daily photograph. I took one more picture looking down the empty path, and suddenly it struck home how much I'm going to miss her. If 1 human year is equal to 7 dog years, Cabbage lived to 105, and after a difficult start she had a good life, so there are plenty of happy memories for us to look back on. But now I understand something that once seemed incomprehensible to me, that losing a pet is a bereavement.